Music's going to start. Welcome back to the Tasty Brains podcast with your host, Paulie Donuts, and special guest, Josh Carney. Josh, welcome to the show, brother.
What's up, Paulie? How's it going, man?
It's going great now that I have you on my very important podcast.
I cleared my entire schedule. So
it's going to go global with you on it now.
Well, yeah. If by global you mean around, Duval, and our surrounding zip code, which basically that's global for me.
Hey, man.
I'm Duval till you die, so
Have you ever seen the movie Juice with Omar Epps? Old DJ movie. Queen Latifah's in it. Tupac.
I know of Juice. I've just never seen it.
Omar Epps this has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about, but he goes, he's like trying to be this DJ, right? And he only makes these local mixtapes. So there's a huge DJ competition at this club. Tupac's one of his buddies, and Queen Latifah's the kind of the club owner manager, right? So Omar Epps rolls up, and he's waiting in line all day, and then they basically this is old school, so they like play a tape, and it's a tape of Omar, DJing, right? And she's like, "Wow, this is really good," and it's for like a DJ competition, right? Okay. And she, as soon as she gets taped, she's like, "So where have you DJed at?" He's like, "Oh, like house parties and stuff," and she's like, "Oh, so you're like local?" And he's like, "Yeah. What's the deal? What's the problem with being fucking local? I'm not global yet, man. I'm local." But for those that don't know who you are, if you could give a quick little breakdown on who Josh Carney is and how cool the Stunt app is.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we can dive right in. Well, I'm just a guy who loves sports. I just happen to have built a pretty decent marketing career throughout my journey. Kind of background on me is I a long time ago I started kind of in a little company way long time ago. I started at a little website firm called Website Pros, and kind of quickly climbed the ranks there up into director of marketing, which when I left, we were a little bit bigger company called web.com, had about 2,300 employees, and was the primary sponsor of the PGA Tour. And that really kind of launched my marketing career out to California, where I took over as a head of marketing for one of the largest financial education brands in the world, and then launched my own agency helping VC firms and Bay Area tech startups kind of go to market. And that got me really, really connected, where I started launching additional consulting agencies and other marketing firms, and ended up building one of the largest marketing firms in the country that focuses in the financial education sector. So help some of the largest brands in that sector. If you want to learn how to trade, or you're learning how to trade cryptocurrency or NFT projects, etc., if you see any of those ads or marketing campaigns out there on the internet, chances are my hand was either directly involved, I created it myself, my agency created it, or it was inspired by something that I did.
Wow.
And so that kind of was my claim to fame for a while. But interestingly enough, while I did that, all those years ago, I was the guy who sat in my office and would close my door and call the local sports radio station. So, I'm from Jacksonville, Florida.
Nice.
I was 13 years old when we got the Jags here. And I remember my mom worked at an elementary school, and the announcement went over the intercom that we had got the Jags. I was there. I was out of middle school myself, there waiting for her to get off of work, got dropped off there waiting so we could go home. And I watched it on TV in the teacher's lounge. The announcement.
Oh, that's badass.
And I literally, it's one of the few moments in my life that I actually cried. I was so happy, that we had got this team, because I was such a diehard sports fan. Right. And that love of that team transitioned to of me being a guy who did nothing but listen to the ESPN affiliate station here in Jacksonville, local radio, every single day, and was a regular caller. So every show knew me. I would call in every show. Look, in between my marketing job, close the door, quick call in, tell them what I thought, get off the phone, whatever.
Nice.
What was cool about that is it led to the opportunity for me to go to some events that the station was having.
Uh-huh.
At the time, I was also a diehard fantasy football nut. I was huge into analytics, and I was playing in leagues with all my friends, just destroying them, because I was way too nerdy and way too deep in fantasy football.
Mostly, how many fantasy leagues have you been in at one time?
At my height, at the most,
Yeah.
34.
That is mental. I can't even do one.
Yeah, well, here, and I'll explain why that you end up getting to that once you start doing fantasy also as a part of your career, and I'll explain that in a minute.
Okay.
But point is that getting out and being around people at the station, one of the guys at the station who worked into the afternoon show happened to be one of the foremost, smartest fantasy guys I've ever met. And right now, he's one of the biggest personalities in fantasy sports. His name is Mike Dempsey.
Okay.
Mike Dempsey does Football Diehards, Drive Time Radio on, Sirius XM. He's like one of the best fantasy players I've ever known in my whole life. And it just so happens that me and him ended up doing a contest together for the radio station. He comes to find out that I know fantasy sports really, really, really well and goes, Jacksonville needs a fantasy football show, because this is when fantasy was really starting to get going, like, in the late 2000s, when really people were starting to jump on board. Daily fantasy sports was like a little thing, but like ESPN leagues, my fantasy leagues, all that was like the rage. He's like, let's do one.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, awesome. That was my break into radio. So I became a fantasy analyst, and within a year from that, we were doing the fantasy football television show in Jacksonville for the Jacksonville Jaguars at the stadium.
That's nuts.
And so like that took off, and then all of a sudden I'm getting booked on Sirius XM all the time. I'm an analyst out of Jacksonville, and then I'm filling in as a permanent fill-in co-host on Football Diehards for Bob Harris and Mike Dempsey. And then so I was like a fantasy analyst for around 6 years while I was building my marketing career.
Oh man, that's amazing.
That's why you end up in 34 fantasy leagues, right? Because you're on Sirius XM and you're on these other stations, and you get invited in all these different leagues and radio leagues and TV leagues and all this stuff.
And these are like paid leagues, right? Like ones you can make money off of.
Well,
I'm guessing some are free, I know, but
most of them
are free.
When you're an analyst, end up being free, and the reason is because they're listener leagues.
Gotcha.
Right, so you're running on one show. There's 5 leagues, and you compete in all of them, so you get all the listeners in, and then another one, and then plus, when you're an analyst too, all your buddies want to play in leagues.
Of course.
Right? So you get invited into, this friend has a random league with all these guys that he knows from his job, and he wants an analyst in the league with them,
Right.
Anyway, it's a whole thing. So that said, that love of sports really translated into, when I left the sports scene, I left being an analyst because my career was taking off too much. And then I was launching my own companies and doing all this stuff. I was like, I always had this
sports drive.
Not only that, but you miss it. I missed talking. I missed radio. I missed TV. I missed, being an analyst and all that stuff. So fast forward to about 2 years ago, I'm consulting on a project for a big company in the finance space. It's basically trying to merge like trading education with like TikTok.
Oh, wow.
Right? They bring me in. I own a big consulting firm as well, and they bring me in to consult on this project. And what ended up happening is I went down this big rabbit hole of how content creation companies make money. All right. So the Twitches of the world, the YouTubes of the world, the TikToks of the world, all these different companies, the OnlyFans of the world, right? And I went down this big path and like this rabbit hole of just case study after case study after case study that I was building on trying to consult them on the best way to be able to build a content creation firm. During that period of time, I also then realized there is not one single sports-themed content creation company in the world that's like a major platform.
That's wild.
Social media, presence, because at that time, the rumors were that Elon was going to start, he was going to buy Twitter.
Right.
And there was the whole debate about TikTok, if we're actually being spied on, and is this going to get taken off our phones? And I realized those are two of the most major places that sports content lives currently for content creators, right? It's TikTok
Big time.
And Twitter. So I started thinking, why don't we have that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why has nobody ever done this? And I sat on it for a little while. And then I took 2 weeks out of my life and sat in this office, which I basically never leave. And I decided to basically lock myself in here and build an architecture for what a social media site would look like for just sports content. And I built this huge, extensive business plan and site architecture and product feature functionality and UI, like basically like this is what it would be.
Wow.
And I was working on another project where one of the consultants on that project was a guy named Arnold Connell. Arnold Connell, by the way, was the ex-senior lead engineer at Google.
Oh,
he is responsible for, and
what a coincidence.
He created something you might have heard of called YouTube television.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, right. And this guy is, and he helped build some of Dropbox's biggest features. Like he's just one of those guys, right? $billion projects, immense teams,
amazing,
one of the smartest guys at Google, just brilliant. I give him this architecture. I'm like, what do you think about this? Like, what do you think this could be, right? He comes back to me after like not even like one day, and he goes, I'll drop everything if you want.
Oh, wow.
I was like, so you think this has legs? He goes, this has more than legs. I think this could be one of those things that when it's out there and it's rolling, it
game changer,
change things.
Mm-hmm.
And when said that,
let me interrupt you because I'm curious. Were you nervous about like sharing the idea?
Look, here's something honestly, as a guy who owns a successful consulting firm and a national marketing firm.
Mm-hmm.
The people who say, "Oh, I can't tell you anything about it. I can't tell you anything because somebody's going to steal it."
Right.
Those are always the ones who are never successful.
Okay.
If you don't believe in yourself enough to say that I'm the right guy to build this, I don't care who else hears about it because I'm the guy that should be building this, or I'm the guy that I know I can make this successful. If you're not that guy, or if you're so scared that somebody else is going to do something that you're doing, in my opinion, I feel like you're never actually going to get it off the ground. You're never actually going to be now. That's not saying that you go out and you tell everyone all your industry insider secrets and all that stuff.
Of course.
General concepts of ideas. If I went to you right now, Paulie, and I say, "Hey, Paulie, go build a social media app for sports." How fast are you going to be able to get the resources,
exactly,
and talent, and really in your mind build the architecture for what that looks like and get it like.
My buddy had a great tip. I run stack sales on Twitter. I sell cards on Twitter. That's my main business, and I'm always looking for ways to innovate it and whatnot. Any way I can get the cards to the seller faster and obviously receive my revenue is just as fast, almost like Amazon, right? And I reached out to my buddy who lives in California, and he's kind of got some good tech buddies. And so I go to him, I go, "Hey, what about an app?" And he's like, "Bro, you're really calling me about an app?" He's like, "First, how about you start finding ways, the cheapest ways, because you don't have the infrastructure and people, just like you were saying, like you can, hey, go make some Jordans tomorrow." It's like, do you know a sewing factory? Do you have leather materials? Do you have sewing machines? Right. Do you have, child labor? I mean, I'm just kidding. I wear Jordans all day, and yeah, but you know what I mean? And it kind of, it rings true with what you're saying. It's like, yeah, you can put the idea out there to anybody, minus the secret squirrel stuff. But don't always, I guess, be the big man with the secret, for using a Navy term right there. But continue. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no. That wasn't interrupting at all. What you're saying is exactly right. Like, that's why I wasn't really scared to send this to Arnold, too. Because, by the way, Arnold I've worked with, thousands and thousands of people through my career. I can't even count how many people I've worked with. And he's probably one of the most genuine, humble, awesome people I've ever had a chance to work with professionally. And so I was more than comfortable sending this in because I really wanted his opinion. His brain is when we talk about tasty brains, the guy's got brains for days, right? And so, I asked him his opinion. He was like, "Josh, this could be a literal world changer if we do it the right way." He was like, "Let's do this."
Right.
And so I was like, okay. That said, I had a third party that one of our other co-founders involved who I had already been talking to him about it. And he's a high-powered sports agent, works with a lot of, major sporting professionals and sporting broadcast professionals. And he's also a lawyer. Wow. And so he's been around for a long time out of Chicago. And him too, this is his brainchild.
What's his name?
Right. His name is Steve Mandel.
Okay.
And for some people listening, they might know who Steve Mandel is. He's really, 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 really well connected and well known in the sports world. Everybody knows this guy. It's funny. We go to NFL honors, or we go to the Super Bowl. We go Radio Row. We go anywhere I go with Steve. we can't go like 5 feet without somebody be like, Steve Mandel, Steve Mandel. I'm like, oh,
Wow.
goodness. Right? Which is great. And he also was in the same mindset. How could we build something for sports related, so athletes could keep their careers going after they retire and really, be able to build followings, etc.
Yeah, because you see them rely. They rely a lot. It seems like there's some sort of plan set up for most players. I would say most that at least last more than a couple years in the league. Whether it's NFL, NBA, whatever, the transitional period afterwards to kind of keep them mentally occupied. And I'm sure there's some things in place to keep these guys kind of going, because I can only imagine, coming from a military guy, once I was told I had to retire, you are left with a hole. And I can only imagine training your whole life as, a professional, athlete. And it's probably like, holy shit, what do I do tomorrow?
Right. And that's part of the thought process behind this, right? It's not just like the everyday sports fan and giving them a place, but also these athletes, these celebrities, these, various different people who are spread across multiple platforms, are trying to figure out, like, how do I actually monetize my social media? Right.
It is so difficult.
Very hard. So
I just got Instagram. So literally just got Instagram.
Well, for me, I literally only use, basically, if I'm being honest, I really only used Twitter forever. Like, I have an Instagram.
Right.
But like, it's literally just like close family and friends. Like, that's all it is. Right. And, like, I wasn't, I'm 40. So I'm not of like the TikTok generation, like the generation, like my teenage kids that's their generation, right? For me, Twitter, in 2009 was, and even before 2009, I go back even in 2008, really, with the concept of, we had escaped MySpace and we were looking for something else new. Yeah. Facebook was like the rage, but I wasn't really about Facebook at the time. And then Twitter hits and boom, like Twitter was like everything. And still to this day, on a Sunday, if you follow me on Twitter, unfortunately, you're just going to see live Jags coverage, right? I'm just literally live tweeting the whole time every Sunday night. But point is that, that was really the place where I lived and where I was getting most of my sports content. And nowadays, Twitter is just,
you gotta have the right words muted. Let's just say
it's a mess, and algorithms a mess. And anyway, point is I also started thinking about back when I was like up and coming and trying to become an analyst. The truth of the matter is, and you probably know this too, even with your cards business and the stuff that you do on social media, you every single day aren't just competing against other people that are in the same space as you. You have to compete against every single type of media in the entire world.
1,000%.
On every platform. And that's the problem. Like on YouTube right now, if you wanted to produce something about the Warriors, Golden State Warriors, even if you try to hashtag it the right way, if you want somebody to be able to find you if they type in Warriors, the chances of that happening are almost zero, right? Because what's going to happen is they're going to get Warriors, like different generations of actual Warriors. They're going to get Army stuff. They're going to get Warriors the musical and the movie, and they're going to get all these random clips of actual the Warriors basketball, but then high school team Warriors. This is going to be all kinds of stuff because you're competing against all content types. So I thought, man, these up and coming content creators in sports that want to have their voice heard outside of just the normal fan groups, guys who are actually trying to make something of themselves, they don't have a place to just be able to focus on just sports talk and actually hit the algorithms the right way to showcase their knowledge. So I thought a lot about that. And when I talked to Arnold about this too, and he gave his insights of, hey, this is how I build it. This is what I do. This is what I learned, obviously from Google and from YouTube and building YouTube TV and creating that. And this is what I throw in. And when we had this kind of plan, we were like, okay, this is good. Can we get funded? Because we could do this just me and him and bootstrap it and just whatever. But the speed to market could really go well if we got funded.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I'm kind of well connected through, my network of working through VC firms and working on as a consultant in a bunch of projects. Steve's very well connected at being in a lot of different businesses. He's extremely connected. So, we went basically to market to say, can we build this? Can it work? And we were fully funded within a week.
Wow. Brought out the Rolodex.
and we didn't even need it. Like that was the thing. We didn't need it.
That's amazing.
We had people that wanted to be involved, and it was like, let's go. That was literally, Paulie, I'm not joking. That was not even 6 months ago.
Wow. That's crazy, because when I look at it's funny because last night on the couch, I was doing some research on you and the company, and I'm looking at the website. I showed it to my wife. I'm like, this isn't no like bullshitty website here. This isn't like some, and I was looking at just the simple, there are things that the normal people don't notice. No offense, normal people out there, but when you're looking at a website, and unless you know kind of the inner workings to the coding and how they make the phones, how your phones move as you go down, and all those kind of like things, that's not free. One, two, it takes somebody to like figure out how to make that look cool. There's a reason it looks cool,
Right.
And you'll go to one website and it'll be like, oh, just some fucking words and blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, okay, that's a nice website. And then you go to like Apple when they're releasing a new iPhone. You're like, what the hell is this? Like, it's super immersive. In the same way the website and the app is. So yeah, keep going.
The point is that, fortunately for myself, I've worked in the startup space for a long time. I've consulted in that space. I literally owned an agency that did nothing but go in and consult go-to-market strategies for tech companies that were getting investments from VC firms. And the reason the VC firms would hire me to come in and consult their projects so that they wouldn't, burn 35% of their initial investment right out the gate with stupid decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with all that experience in launching, this, and obviously I've launching multiple successful companies before this, I'm like, okay, how can I do this the right way for the right amount of money and keep, our investment team really happy, but yet be able to build a product that actually works for people.
Right.
And the thought process was, let's put the most basic MVP product in the hands of the people and see how they use it, and hold all the good stuff and all the big, all the big development updates and, the stuff we want to build, hold on it until we have market proof that this is really what people are going to want to use. Because if you're launching a social media app, there's a fine balance of new and awesome and familiarity.
Of course. Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want to give someone an iPhone that's used an iPhone for their whole life, and then give them an Android and be like, "Here you go," and they're like, "This phone sucks." It's like, well, it doesn't suck. It's just different, man. So
you've got to have like, it's funny. So you've got to imagine if you had a crossover Android Apple, right? So it's like the best features of Android, but the best features of Apple and the familiarity of Apple. Then you hand that phone to them, and they're like, "Okay, I can get around. Oh, I didn't. This is new. This is interesting.
I missed that." Yeah.
Right. That is what, we have, the struggle to provide for them is to give them this something that's familiar from a social perspective, features they already know and love, which I'll get into that in a second, but then also this new stuff that is why we're even making this in the first place. And so kind of this architecture we came up with is the familiarity of Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, and Clubhouse. Right? Like the four main content types I feel like people in sports create.
What's Twitter, Clubhouse?
So Clubhouse is an audio only room functionality. Okay. You can go in and launch an audio room where you can invite people up on stage and
I've heard of this before.
Group conversations similar to Twitter Spaces.
Gotcha.
Right? So, what we did is we took like where do sports people live currently? They're spread out on all these platforms. Well, YouTube Shorts and TikTok is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces for audio rooms. So basically like live podcasts, live game commentating, all of that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
Then Twitter-like functionality with our takes features, which is another one. And then live streaming, live video rooms like Twitch, right? So we took those four concepts and we built them, but we built them specific for sports fans and with functionality that play into what people would utilize it for, in a sports environment.
Wow.
And then what we did is we built a really, really intensive infrastructure on the back end that we'll be launching towards the end of April, which allows you to monetize your content. And the reason we did that is, in the beginning of my story, when I told you I did these big research projects on social media platforms and content creation platforms and how they make money. This is going to sound funny, Paulie, but the one platform that continued to stand out over and over through my case studies, monetization studies, and what they're doing and why they're doing things correctly is OnlyFans.
Naturally.
The OnlyFans model is so smart from a business perspective because of the fact that you have content creators who are advertising themselves out on other networks to come here to see free content that they hide premium content behind a paywall that based on their own celebrity, they get to determine what it's worth. And so, and you think about it, and now
Genius.
Nobody in any other content type can have an OnlyFans account without being like, oh, you're an adult entertainment industry.
Right.
Right. Because OnlyFans is now associated with that period.
But I just show my feet.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But that's the funny part is that that's the stigma associated with OnlyFans. Now, even though OnlyFans was not created for that industry.
I know. It's so wild how that blew up.
Right. So here's fast forward to now. I'm like, okay, why does that work so well? Well, it's working for a quote unquote entertainment industry.
Right.
So how do I take that model and bring that to the world of sports, which is an entertainment industry? And we realized if we built an entire social presence where you had all the functionality of social media platforms you like with features that were specifically built for sports within those familiarity types. And on top of that, I stacked on a discoverability and an algorithm, that really catered to getting people discovered. And I allowed you to monetize your celebrity through the same model, that OnlyFans type model, so a premium subscription like model that allows you to put premium content behind a paywall. So if you're a fantasy analyst, I can say, here's guys that I really like, but if you want my full rankings and to get me in a start sit scenario where you can ask me questions, just subscribe to my channel for $10 a month.
Boom.
Now I can monetize my social presence. I can also have my free stuff. All my social can live in one place outside of the other platforms that I still post to. And now we're talking about something that impacts the world of sports.
I got to imagine companies like DraftKings and FanDuel have to be kind of got an eyeball on the app if they haven't reached out to you already, because it seems like it would be an easy thing for maybe not them, but guys that give their line predictions and all that kind of stuff. They'd be like, oh, yeah, this is my freebie, and then pay $5 a month or whatever. And
see, that's you're spot on. Here's what I think of as a marketer, right? My job when I come in, I get hired by a client to come in and build, a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign is how do I reduce buyer friction as much as possible, right? Our natural inclination as humans when we buy something is you don't even realize it, but your brain sounds a buyer alarm, right? So because it's that whole instinctive self-preservation, natural survival inclination for us to say, I have to give a resource to get this thing. Is it worth for me to give this resource to get this thing? I have to justify it to myself. And all this happens in microseconds in your brain, by the way.
Right.
But that's where buyer remorse comes from. That's where justification comes from. All those feelings that you have after you purchase something, that all comes from this buyer alarm that you have. That said, in order for me to actually spend this resource, I need as little friction as possible for my brain to be able to say in an emotional state, I can justify this right now to buy it. So fast forward to like a content creator asking someone to give them money for content they're creating or for entertainment or for something like that, you still have to reduce that friction. Right now, the DraftKings and the FanDuels and the people creating content for that, what they're doing is they are like, hey, you want my daily fantasy picks for today? Go to my website and check out what I have. So now you go to their website and then they're like, great, you can subscribe to my website for $5 a month. Here's a preview. And you click on this cart feature up here. And then it takes you to another page where now you have to make another decision and you have to manually type in your credit card. There's all of these little micro decisions you have to make, which by the way, every single step you take a customer on, every single step is another chance for that buyer alarm to prevail and say, I'd rather keep it first. Right. Exactly. So, how can I as a marketer reduce that friction for a content creator? And the way you do that is you allow all the content to live and breathe and the buying decision to all take place in one specific place, and you give them the tools necessary to allow them to monetize what they're doing there, so that they can say, hey, all you got to do is hit that subscribe button. By the way, it's already connected with your PayPal, or it's already connected with your credit card, whatever, in your profile. You've already set that up. Literally just hit subscribe. That's what Twitch did, right? Like Twitch has the same functionality for live streaming. But now you can hit that button and I can charge you whatever I feel like my worth is. So I'll give you an example. Michael Irvin's a major part of this platform. He's one of our senior equity board of advisor members, and he's been involved since day one.
If anyone that's listening doesn't know who Michael Irvin is, you have this thing probably in your hand or in your pocket at the moment. Please Google. And if you don't know who they are, if you don't know who he is, we're going to have serious issues, okay?
So he's one of the greatest wide receivers of all time, arguably, and he will tell you the greatest of all time. He is a Hall of Fame wide receiver, played for the Dallas Cowboys for years and years. Ultra major celebrity. You can catch him every NFL Sunday on NFL Game Day on NFL Network. Ultra biggest celebrity. When I'm with Michael, we're anywhere. We can't walk a foot.
Oh, literally. I'm sure. It's got to be nuts.
It's wild. It's bonkers. So that said, Michael Irvin has a different level of celebrity than I would as a fantasy analyst, even at my height as a fantasy analyst, right? I'm a nobody compared to Michael Irvin.
Right.
If I wanted to do on Sunday, say, hey, come watch the Jags game with me on Sunday, my premium subscribers, I'm going to have a room set up. I'm going to live commentate the game. I'm going to bring people up on stage to talk with me. We're going to have a live chat going. It's going to be cool. We're going to do a group hangout.
Wow.
What that might be worth to somebody could be like $0, to be honest with you, or $1 compared to Michael Irvin could say, I'm going to hang out and watch the Cowboys game on Sunday. You want to come hang out with me? I'm going to invite a few of you up on stage to talk with me. We're going to do a live chat. I'm going to answer your questions. I'm going to tell you what I think about the game.
That'd be so awesome.
$50, $100, $200, who knows, whatever he wants for that experience to have this like more intimate, time with Michael Irvin in a sports setting. Right. That said, why should my subscription prices and my paywall prices literally be the same for me and Michael Irvin? That makes no sense. And currently on Twitch, in a place like Twitch, or even on YouTube, for in different places, like subscription prices tend to be more static.
Mm-hmm.
That's where OnlyFans is completely different, right? OnlyFans says you set the price based on your celebrity status. That's what we're trying to do on the sports side, to be able to have close, really cool like community features where normal fans are hanging out, talking sports, doing all the stuff they're doing on other platforms. But people who want to have their voice heard have more access to discoverability features that allow for people to discover them, which I'll tell you about a cool feature we're bringing to the platform really soon. But then also celebrities, athletes, sports figures, broadcasting professionals, analysts, journalists, they can also showcase their content and put the premium stuff behind a paywall so they can finally monetize their social. This is what we're building.
And you did kind of the same thing with Mark Schlereth, correct?
So Mark's a major part of the platform. We've got Mark, we've got Michael Irvin, Trey Wingo's getting involved, Mike Silver's getting involved. We've got a bunch of just different, pretty big names in the world of sports that also they look at this product and they're like,
let's go.
This is exactly what we've been waiting for.
Right.
And so, that said, Mark Schlereth, that's a funny story. We had launched Wednesday before the Super Bowl. By the way, that was when we launched so it's only been live literally 3 weeks.
Uh-huh.
The game, the platform's only been live 3 weeks. But the platform that we launched, when I explain this to people, I tell them, we didn't even launch like a skeleton of the platform. We launched like the bone marrow of the platform. Like, wow. That's the best way I can describe it. We launched the most basic, simple features that is, not anywhere near complete, just to see how people use it. Because I think that's the smart thing to do.
Right.
How do people use it? Let me get feedback and let me make sure I'm building the right thing. I don't want to tell you what the right thing is. I want you to tell me what the right thing is, right? Because I want to build you something that you're like, I got it. I want to keep using this, right? If I tell you what the best thing is, you're not gonna, it's not gonna make any sense. So we built this super basic functionality. We launched it, and it was live like 4 days. Mark Schlereth calls me an hour before the Super Bowl. And he goes, Josh, why don't you and me commentate the second quarter of the Super Bowl?
Wow.
On the app.
That is freaking nuts.
I'm like,
Yes, please.
Mark, Mark, he calls games for Fox. He's like one of their main color analysts over
Right.
there, right? So I'm like, okay, you want to do this? Let's do it. I get everything set up. We had only onboard. We have been live a couple days with almost no marketing. We had onboarded like, I don't know, 250 people, like nothing made, like just
Nothing
a few
crazy.
folks from a tiny bit of marketing just to really beta test the platform. And he was like, all right, I'm going to do a little tweet and we're going to live do it. We ended up having like 30 people in the room.
Outstanding.
And I was like, there are 30 people on this brand new app sitting on it during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's the biggest one during the Super Bowl.
During the Super Bowl, they're sitting on this app that just launched. It only has a few people on it, but they're already having all these conversations and posting all this content. And then Mark jumps on and does a live commentary. Does the whole second. And fortunately for me, I've been on radio, and TV for a long time, so I could feed him all the good questions and bounce things off of him. And we just had this really good rapport. He does full Fox analysis style commentary, like better than what Greg Olson was doing as his color commentary live in the broadcast. Mark was like deeper commentary, calling plays. Look at what he did here. Look at this replay. Watch this.
That's awesome.
He finishes. The app, the 30 people who randomly were on the app were like, Josh, you launched this app 3 days ago, and we just got to like have conversation with Mark Schlereth during the Super Bowl, listening to private live commentary. This is the craziest thing ever.
It is.
And then Mark calls me like 5 minutes after we're done. He goes, Josh, that was the most fun thing I've ever done.
Oh, wow.
He was like, I loved it. He was like, I can't, like, if this is what we're building, Josh, he goes, next season is going to be mind blowing. I want to do games. I want to do this on it. And I'm like, we'll build it for you, Mark. You tell me what you want. We'll make sure it's sick. But that right there was one of those moments, Paulie, where I was like, we're on to something.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're really on to something. Like, this could really change kind of the way, like, this functionality of the things that we did aren't like, they're not like mind-blowing, like, oh my God, this doesn't exist. Like, you could go on a Clubhouse, you could go in Twitter Spaces, you could technically do an audio room.
Sure.
The difference is can you do that in an environment of just sports talk with just sports fiends, schedule it out, have it listed there, and then eventually be able to monetize it, whether behind a paywall or a sponsor or all this kind of stuff, and also have it discovered really easy without competing with a bunch of other content types.
Right. I was going to say that getting that access and not competing with, whatever's going on in the world, whatever, they can use those other apps for those kind of things. Now, is the Stunt app, is it kind of, are there things that are blocked from being talked about? Or, I mean, how do you kind of control that whole, ecosystem? Can't be easy.
Huge concern for me when we launched this, right? As I said, how in the world are we going to be able to police just sports talk, right? So obviously, we've built in some security features and we built in reporting information and blocking users, and we've built in a lot of that stuff. And actually, even on the front end, security is one of the number one things we're still working on. Like, it's number one. We want to make sure that's like a very secure site. People are very comfortable on it, and that sports talk is what dominates and really is the only type of content that's on here.
Right.
That said, over 3 weeks, right, we're watching. I'm like, are people going to self-police, or are we going to have to police them with moderators? How is this going to work? In 3 weeks, and countless posts, just every day, people are posting all day, every day. Like, people are posting, responding, posting. We have had one piece of content that was not sports related.
Oh, wow.
And what that told me is that it's not just about self-policing. The community wants this.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
They want a place to escape all these other content types. And they have justified it and said it themselves, like, oh my God, it feels so good to just have a bunch of guys and a bunch of girls like tweeting about just sports relevant content and not seeing what Elon Musk ate for breakfast, or not seeing a random political thread, or not seeing some major natural disaster, or not seeing some controversial take, or not seeing, some new TikTok dance, or not seeing like
some chick's ass.
right,
One of
exactly. They're like, wow, it's so refreshing to like just see. You're talking about, Dame Lillard dropping 71 points last night and everybody talking
mental.
about it, right? Like that is all they're seeing and talking about. And them saying, oh my God, we needed this. That in itself has shown me they are self-policing, Paulie.
Yeah.
Like they don't want that other stuff on here. And they're not
Right.
going to put up with it being on here. This is an escape for people. This is where we just come talk about sports. Again, another validation that we're building something pretty special.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have to see a way to maybe be the first guy with sports cards on there.
So sports cards are going to be an absolute, in my opinion, a huge part of this, especially with the reemergence of sports cards and collecting.
Yep.
And, I collected my whole life growing up, like as a kid, and that was like a huge thing. And obviously it's went away and now it's back full force. I think even bigger than when I was a kid.
Massive.
It's massive, right? That is sports though.
Yep.
And people love trading sports cards, anything sports related. So we're talking, if you're into fantasy sports, if you're into NASCAR, golf, if you're into, football, NFL, soccer, which by the way, I'm going to talk about that in a second. No matter what you're into, if it's sports themed or sports related, this is the place to talk about it. Sports broadcasting, color commentating, all of that stuff has a place here on this app. And what we did, knowing that there's so many different types of sports genres and sports information out there and different types of sports people talk about, we did some really in-depth analysis on other social media platforms, what sports get talked about and what topics get talked about, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And this went into the discoverability stuff that we built. So this is really, really interesting. This is a major part of our platform that's going to separate us from everybody else. When I talked about being able to shuffle information through an algorithm and showing you really what you would actually care about, we went a step further. Through our analysis, we found out that once this app goes international into Europe and India and other areas, there's two specific sports that are going to absolutely dominate the airwaves: soccer and cricket.
Yep.
And there is more social media posts created about soccer and cricket worldwide than any other type of sports post because they're so large there in the population of fans. They 12, 13x football fans.
Oh, yeah. All day.
Like easy. So we started thinking about that. And granted, the algorithm's going to show you, based off of people you follow and stuff you've liked and all that, it's going to show you a lot of that. But how can we allow for a person to really just see the sports and athletes and drivers and golfers, et cetera, that they actually care about?
Right.
So what we're introducing here over the next couple of months is when you set up an account, or if you have an account, you're going to be able to go into the back end. And when you're setting it up, it's going to ask you, what sports do you like? You're going to be able to select all of every type of league and sport. You're going to be able to select the ones that you actually care about. And then from within that, the next page is going to have subcategories. Which teams of these sports do you care about? And then from there, it's going to take you and say, what athletes do you specifically care about that you actually want to see content created about, or drivers or PGA golfers or live golfers or whoever it is that you care about, individuals.
Right.
What fantasy sports do you care about? All of these different types of, industry related. Are you into sports cards? Are you collecting? Are you into this?
I was just going to say.
You're going to be able to select all of those options, and that's going to live in something called My View. You can change your My View anytime you want. But let's say you're on the app and you're scrolling through content and you're like, to be honest, it's a Sunday. I want to switch my view to just Jaguars content. For me, I just want to see all my guys out there talking about Jag stuff. I can change up my view, only have it selected Jacksonville Jaguars, turn on My View on the app, and you are only going to see content, whether that's short form videos, our takes functionality, which is like Twitter, live rooms, live audio rooms, live streaming, only people who have categorized their content for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wow.
So for me, at that point, now I can discover new people in the community that are talking Jags. I can interact with them. I can follow them. They'll follow me back. That's what I talk about with discoverability.
And does it do that through picking up the hashtags or picking up keywords like Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence?
It gives you the opportunity. When you create a piece of content, you're saying, I'm going to go live in this room, and I'm going to categorize it with something.
Gotcha.
So what it'll do is that incentivizes you to make sure your categories are correct. You can add multiple or just one, but the point is that when that functionality is built out and finished, you're able to categorize your content for discoverability.
Right.
Anybody out there who's a Jags fan, I want them to find me. I want them to find me talking about it here, right? So I'm going to categorize everything I'm doing as Jags for this weekend. And now all my Jags are like, oh, look, another Jags guy. This guy's creating content about the Jags. I'm going to follow him. That allows me to bolster my following so that eventually if I feel like my following is good enough and my content's good enough, now I can put my paywall up. Now I can have premium content, right? This is the journey, the ascension model that I'm trying to get to so that people can be discovered, find communities, find friends, find people to talk sports with, and honestly just use the app not only as a way to monetize and a way to grow celebrity and all this stuff, but also just use it as a place to hang out with their buddies. Because eventually maybe you find enough guys who are talking about content at the same piece. Maybe it's NASCAR and, race day on Sunday. I've got a bunch of grouping. Fans, all Kyle Busch fans, and we all find each other. And then NASCAR on Sunday, I'm like, hey guys, let's start an audio room and let's just hang out for the race every Sunday. And we'll just hang out in here together and talk about the game from our own couches.
Makes sense.
Community.
That's awesome.
Community. And that's really what we're trying to do.
How does the, I know I gotta let you go here soon. How does the monetization part, is that just, like I want to follow you and I want to get into your premium content. Do I just put my credit card in? You guys do all that processing and all that kind of thing. And then you make sure the content creator gets paid. Is that how that would work?
Yeah. So it's very, very similar to what already is a set up on other platforms, right? Once you set up your account, once you hit a certain minimum threshold of followers and likes and certain things that are showcasing that you're an actual content creator, with some, a substantial following, or you're somebody who's coming onto this that already has that, right? Like you have somewhat of a celebrity status. You can come in under our kind of affiliate program and you get unlocked to be able to be paid.
Very cool.
You get to set up, your own account. Here's my, my information, my bank account information, et cetera, to be paid to. And then we have creator user splits, right? So we keep some of the money, obviously, to pay for the platform itself and to continue to be able to pay for licensing, for music and other types of things. And then that split goes to you. The cool part is that we've actually built the splits more competitive than any of the other networks, right?
Gotcha.
We want the creators to be more incentivized. So if it's at least the same, if not greater than, from what Google is paying on the YouTube side and YouTube ad side, because eventually advertising will make its way onto this platform. Advertising and sponsored posts, et cetera, will make its way on here because that's how to keep the platform running, how to keep it growing, how to keep, to be able to advertise, to get more users onto the platform. You need to be able to make revenue of some sort. And so that's definitely part of our plan. We want it to be profitable, but we've taken the case studies from the ones that are not profitable. Like, for example, Twitch is a $14 billion company that has yet to ever turn a profit.
Wow. I didn't know that.
They hemorrhage money, but they're worth a lot because of the eyeballs, but the streaming, the expense, the way they built their infrastructure early wasn't ever built to support what they are now. So they lose tons of money, but they're extremely, valuable. They're worth a lot, right? It's like a funny mix. So for us, we are trying to build now to be profitable later, but also allow for our creators to make as much money that they would make anywhere else or more, based on the way we're building our back end structure for payouts. So that's kind of how that works. Yeah. Yeah.
Why would someone want to leave if they're going to make the same, I already built my base here. Why am I going to leave? It's like, well, what if you could make more money? Oh, okay. I will leave.
Here's the other thing. We are a true social media platform. I'm not a competitor of anyone. And I will even be the first one to tell. Okay, it's funny. I met with somebody pretty famous the other day. I'm not gonna say who it was, but they have a massive following. And they were like, so like, what would you think? Like, should I be like moving like people over now? Should I be talking about it? And I was like, no. I'm not ready for you to move your following here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you, do not move your following here yet. Instead, you can talk about that you're involved, but I want your brain right now. I want you telling me what features are going to make life amazing for you here. What things are going to be, are features that you think this would be a game changer for me that this platform doesn't have. Let me build on that. And I said, and even when you tell your community you're here, I know that your thought process is, I'd love to move everybody here. And that might happen.
Sure.
But a great content creator still has a presence on about 4 other platforms.
Yep.
So you're still going to use Twitter. You're still going to use Instagram. You're going to use TikTok. Well, as long as that bill doesn't pass and get it taken off everybody's phone, you're still going to have like these other platforms you're going to post to. I want you to be able to just have all your sports content in one place where everybody here is here to listen to your sports takes, not necessarily to hear, how you liked X movie, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to maybe after one day, after you get some more free time, pick your brain about getting sports cards more prominent on the app.
I'll get you all set up. I've got I've got some really cool stuff and some cool content, internal teams that I've got that work with various different content creators at different levels to also help them get their stuff onboarded. And yeah, let's talk, Paulie. I'll definitely get you on.
Badass. And lastly, how did you acquire Dior Jordan 1 highs?
You saw those, huh?
I'm not a dummy, man. I got eyeballs. I was like, I watched it the first time and I didn't see it.
I mean, as you can tell, I might be a little bit of a collector. Right?
Yeah, the one Chicago's there are sexy.
Thank you. So
I got some flags back here in a pull-up bar.
Oh yeah. So what you have to do is you have to be willing to sacrifice pairs that you have and be able to do either trade and swaps, with cash for other pairs. And you have to just work your way up until you've got a person that's got a pair that you really want. And you've got enough resources and or cash to take those from flips that you've made on a bunch of other pairs and say, I'm willing to sacrifice these for this.
They're an amazing pair. They're probably a top. I don't know. I guess some would have them in the top 10. I mean, price wise, for sure. I think they could be in the top. I'm a big Jordan 1 guy, so
same. Likewise, I've got an underrated pair. I know we've got to go, but an underrated pair that I literally just got them delivered. They weren't hard to get, but when I held them in my hand, I am absolutely obsessed with them now. Is I just got the Jordan 1 low Concords that just released with the patent leather.
Okay.
The 11s, not Jordan 1. Jordan 1s mocked up like the 11s, the Space Jams, but on the 1 lows, right, with the patent leather, the Concord. Yep. And absolutely in hand, Paulie, if you haven't got them yet,
I don't.
They are one of the most beautiful Jordan 1 lows I've ever held in my hand, with that light blue sole, that light blue gum sole on the bottom, patent leather around. I mean, in hand, get yourself. They're not hard to get.
Right.
They're super cheap. Get a pair. They are one of the best looking Jordans in hand I've had in a while.
Are they OG tongue? Do they have the Nike Air tongue, or do they have the big Jumpman tongue?
Jumpman tongue.
All right, I'll have to put them in my hand then. I'm such a snob when it comes to Jordan 1 lows. If the tongue isn't OG, my head starts like going, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know, but I love the most underrated shoes to me in general are Jordan 1 lows, OG especially.
I love them. Now let me ask you a question real quick before you. Are you rocking Panda Dunks like everybody else, or
no? Never. I'm on the checkered Vans train, and I'm trying to just smash everyone in the head with checkered Vans. I
was 18, probably from 18 to 21. Probably I don't think I wore another pair of shoes besides checkered Vans for probably a good 3 years of my life.
If you're a sneakerhead, to me, I had another buddy of mine on D Block, and he's a big shoe guy, and he's the same way as me. It's like that's just such an easy go-to pair, and then your other nice stuff is for when you're trying to, no pun intended, but stun on somebody, and
and it's funny because I'm a big proponent, by the way, of wear your sneakers. Like 100%. I'm not the guy that leaves stuff in boxes. I will wear them now. Like I've only put those Dior's on my feet one time, and that was to film that video with Michael. That's the only time I've ever put them on my feet. And
makes sense.
That might be, unless I'm doing something special like that, I'm not going to put them on. But everything else, all my Off-Whites, all my Yeezys, all my Travis Scotts, all that stuff, I wear them. I wear them out. But I prefer to wear the nicer ones when I'm out in a city that I really feel like, and don't get me wrong, I live in St. Augustine. I'm super close to Duval County in Jacksonville, Florida. I love Duval. Duval's home. But we don't have a lot of sneakerheads here in Duval. So, like, sometimes I feel like they go a little underappreciated.
I gotcha.
I'm in, like, L.A., Miami, Vegas, New York. When I'm in, like, the big cities where everybody –
put them on.
The culture's there, like, the sneaker culture's there, I'm wearing them.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm out here in the country in Houston, about 45 minutes away from the city, and I wear shoes, and people are like, what the hell are those? And I'm like, I know.
Or like wear these yellow human races right here, and people look at you like, what what are those? And you're
That
like, oh,
that was a movement right there. Human races were crushing it for a moment. And Kanye drama aside, I mean, I think he kind of pushed Pharrell out of the way as far as Adidas and sneakers goes.
true. But you saw what happened. Pharrell just got announced as he
Louis
is now the head Louis designer for men now.
he took
Virgil's spot.
Virgil's spot, which is so wild.
Crazy, right? I mean, we could probably do another podcast. Just
yes.
I mean,
once again, I want to thank you for coming on, Josh. I am going to reach out to you for you to come and produce my podcast and make me the greatest podcast star of all time.
Done. We already are. I mean,
got a long way to go. Episode 16 in the can right now. Is there anything else you want to push, Josh? Obviously, IG is stunt.app and
stunt.app on IG. Honestly, I'll just tell you guys, go to the App Store, search for either Google or iOS, and search for The Stunt. It'll be the number one thing that pops up when you search for The Stunt. Download it, and please, please, please give me your feedback on things that you want me to build for you, because that's the big thing right now. Is remember, this is like the super beta version of the platform where all the really fun, cool stuff we have kind of behind this dev wall that you guys can't see yet. And all that stuff's, going to make its way onto the platform over the next few weeks and months. But for right now, every week we're building out our timeline and our dev sheet and throwing new ideas and new stuff that we're putting into the platform. And a lot of it's coming from user feedback. So here's what I'm going to end with. Imagine you were in the first 1,000 users of TikTok.
No.
How famous do you think you could be right now? Or imagine it's 2017 and you found out if you just dye your hair blue and get really, 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 really good at Fortnite, you would be signing a deal last week with Jerry Jones with a major gaming management company, and you would be worth
X money,
right? The point is that when you're an early adopter into something new and major, you can build your own celebrity. And I'm telling you, we've got guys like Michael Irvin and Mark Schlereth and major names involved in this. I've got the lead senior engineer for Google who built YouTube TV building it. And, I've launched a lot of really successful startup companies. We've got kind of this perfect storm brewing of talent, resources, celebrity status, and the idea of bringing just sports to social media. People who adopt early are going to find themselves with pretty substantial followings down the road. So I would tell you, get on board now. Tell me the features that you want and watch as this thing really, really, really grows over the course of the next year to two.
Hear that, everybody? Download the Stunt app. Josh, thanks again for everything. I'm so greatly appreciative for you coming on. Everyone else, download the app. Like, comment, subscribe. Tasty Brains podcast on all major streaming platforms, YouTube, all that. Please like, comment, subscribe. It helps.
Do it.
Do it now. All right. Thanks again. Peace.
All right.